Hello, and welcome to A Night with the Dark Knight, the show that takes a look at Batman through the ages, for better or for worse.
With your dynamic duo, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And tonight we will be talking Batman, the animated series.
Yes. Don't quite have the setup on my end, but thank you, Aidan, for demonstrating your DVD version
Egyptian
of Batman the Animated
moves.
Series. It is a shame you only have the DVD version and not the incredible Blu-ray version, which
Well, it's only animation, though, isn't it? What's the difference?
it's actually there is a bit of a difference because they've sharpened up all of the edges and that kind of thing. So it's basically more of what the original template was, but you get to see it. It is quite nice just having them on Blu-ray, you know. And
not on my version, so
no, I do have some of those over there. I don't have a box set of the originals because when I was younger, I had it all kind of just separate. I only had the first two.
Did you have the volumes?
Kind of. I had like the first series and the second series because those were available in England. The rest were region locked to region 1, so I couldn't watch those on my DVD player. So it was always like, I remember when I was younger, because I love the animated series. When it came to watching it, I would always, every like week, I'd check Amazon, seeing if they've got a region 2 series 3 and 4. They didn't until I only really got to watch the last 2 series until I was much older.
I mean, yeah, the reason I've got this is because that was basically the first time it was properly released.
Yeah.
Probably ever, because until then, every time it was in, if I go to HMV or any sort or other entertainment stores are available, but any time I went to like that, they'd only ever have like the volume 1, volume 2.
Because that's all that was.
I don't want this. Just give me the lot. I don't want volumes.
I know, and it's not like HMV decided to do that. That's all they could give you because that's the only stuff our
released.
DVD players were allowed to play.
So when this box set got released, I was like, I'm having that.
I'll probably get that at some point because it'd be nice to have the original box set as well as the Blu-rays. But yeah, enough of our Blu-ray.
Yes.
Blu-ray. No, Batman the Animated Series, as you can probably tell, one of my, or if not my favorite Batman thing ever. I love it so much. What do you think of the animated series, Aidan?
Well, I'm sure you know it. As I'm sure you know, I love it very much. Not as much as you, because that's stupidly impossible. But I do. I've never finished it though. Funnily enough, I've never got as far as I've never done series 4, but I've never done that. And it's not series 4, but whatever. And then I think I've only got halfway through series 3 or something. But I do love it very much. And series 1 and 2 I've probably seen quite a few times. So when I was watching the episodes for this podcast, I was like, God, I've seen these a million times, but let's just watch them again. That means they just fly by. So
if it were any other series, I'd be annoyed that you haven't finished it. But because, as we've just said, the last 2 seasons, because they're American, were always region locked, I'll allow it because it's like, as a kid, you just couldn't watch those ones. So it's like, as an adult, it's hard.
Then you'd think when I get access to them, I'd go, let's watch them rather than going back to number 1.
But I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here instead of beating you up.
I just get bored of things after a while. I've still never finished X-Men the animated series.
I know, and you were obsessed with that.
And I was obsessed with that for months. The last 2 seasons of that, I was like, I'm bored. I'm obsessed with something else now. Move on.
Yeah.
I will get round to him. I will.
But today, this week, we're not just talking Batman the Animated Series. We're talking, is Batman the Animated Series the definitive version of the Batman mythology?
Yes.
Because
that's the question I've posed to you.
That's the question Aidan posed to me, and that's the question that most of the discussion today will revolve around. Because the point is, yes, it's a wonderful TV show, but is it really the perfect version?
Is it really?
No, because is it really the perfect version of Batman's whole shtick? Because we know Batman's very good in it, but is everything really top notch?
Yeah, because obviously you made me watch 5 episodes. It sounds like I was forced to watch it, but that's not what I meant. You made me watch 5 episodes. Well, you actually suggested 7, but those last 2 are optional. So anything that's optional, I never do it.
I know.
So I've watched 5. But that it spans across 2 pages of notes, which is quite surprising considering when we do Doctor Who, you can't even see that, can you? If we do Doctor Who, 1 episode spans across 2 pages of
Mhm.
notes. Yeah, because the point is I wasn't focusing on minor things. I mean, there's a couple of minor things that are just my general frustrations with Batman the Animated Series anyway. But um, besides that, they are just overarching themes rather than going, well, I don't think this moment here was quite very good or something like that. Ignored. So it's
Mm.
not really a case of let's focus in on the 3rd scene from Robin's Reckoning, for example. It's just let's talk villains and Batman.
Yes. Characters and just
Characters,
that's the main thing. Themes, that kind of thing.
themes, and
And whether or not
themes.
the episode is good as well.
Well, I think
So,
all five were
yes,
good
I mean, I
episodes.
could have given you one of the worst episodes, and I still would have been sitting here saying it's quite good.
It's good, yeah.
But
What is the worst episode of Batman the Animated Series that you think?
I
See if I've
think
seen it.
it's hard. Probably, I got Batman in my basement for me. It's just a bit tedious. It's like,
Oh,
come
I
on,
do know that one.
get Batman out your basement. I want Batman. I don't want Batman in your basement. But it's that one's very much a kids one because like kids and Batman, and it's like it was good as a kid. Now I'm just like skip, but
Yeah.
it does what it's meant to do, and that's fine.
And the best episode? Not what is seen as the best. What do you
Personal
think is the
favorite,
best?
Forgotten. The
Yes,
Forgotten. I think.
which we'll be touching on next week. But
Yes, I'll touch on that a little bit next week. It is my favorite, but because it's not seen as the best, whenever I do any googling, and it's like, what shall I like for this? I did some googling of what people see as the best. Didn't come up there at all because most people don't really seem to remember it that well. So
the irony,
I finished one. For God's sake.
they've forgotten.
Yeah, I'm with you. So I finished doing the episodes for this series, and I was like, for this episode, and I was like, should have done Forgotten, and I just forgot to watch it.
Hmm.
But there you go. No, the episodes we've covered today, this week, are Joker's Favor, Heart of Ice, Beware the Grey Ghost, Robin's Reckoning 2-parter, and I would have liked Aiden to watch The Cat and the Claw, but he decided against it.
Well, I didn't have time. Well, I did, but I got hopelessly distracted.
Yeah.
But I watched 3
That's-
last night and 2 this morning. That's what I did.
Yeah.
But I know that one. That's the one with Catwoman and that lass in the red outfit. I've seen that one enough times. I know
Claw.
what goes on. Yeah,
Yeah.
the lass in the red outfit.
Yeah.
She does wear red, doesn't she?
Yes, it's like a red leotard.
Yes. I suddenly doubted myself when I said that. I could remember the red claw thing, but I thought, wait, maybe she's actually wearing black. But no.
But yeah, well, I'm glad you watched the main ones at the very least. Otherwise, this wouldn't work if you were just like, no,
Well,
I don't want to watch them.
actually, you sent me a screenshot of your notes, and that only had 5 episodes on it. So technically,
And then I added Cat and the Claw when I was looking through. All right. Okay,
but I didn't save that message. So
let's start with just an overarching. Would you say from like a first impressions kind of thing? Does it
that's
still?
not really first impressions, is it?
Oh, no. What I mean is, does it still stand up for the test
Oh,
of time
right.
and nostalgia? So you've got a fond memory of this show a little bit, but did it still work, or would you say it's a bit?
No, I think it's the thing we were saying last week about Gotham. I don't know if you even kept this discussion, and you could have cut it for all I know.
I
but,
kept most of the stuff.
About you can tell really because Gotham is timeless, essentially, because it's like 1940s, but it's not 1940s, and the 60s have happened, so we're post 60s, or post 50s at least. But it looks like the 1940s. Yet we have the technology of the future. It's all over the place. So that means that makes it timeless, and it can't date that. You can't really have it be dated. This program. Are there things that have happened to Batman since that it doesn't include? Not that I can think of.
Some modern stories, like The Court of the Owls, which is seen as one of the best modern ones, but that is incredibly modern. That's early 2010s, kind of, not
And
like
is
early
that
20.
maybe? But is that maybe a bit too adult for the animated series to be dealing with anyway.
Yeah, the animated series probably wouldn't have been able to do it because it is quite
Because
dark.
it's quite
But
a big. It's because like at most you get a 2-parter as well, and that seems like to be quite a hefty
yeah,
story. Can you really do that in 50 minutes?
probably not actually.
Probably
But
not.
I know I don't think there is much. There are definitely some things that have come since. But the interesting thing is, Batman the Animated Series itself is responsible for most of those developments and new creations kind of thing. So let's start with one new creation. Well, not a new creation, a retelling of a classic character in a much better light. Let's start with Heart of Ice.
Okay. I had no idea where that was going then. Okay, Heart of Ice. Thank God. That's the first one I watched, so that makes sense. Yeah, the first thing I wrote was something I said to you was Mr. Freeze is a villain that you can very, very easily do wrong. Because what have you got? You've got a bloke who freezes things. Very simple to get wrong. Yet it doesn't.
No. Do you want to know
And
why
I
it
mean,
doesn't?
why?
Because it was the first time Mr. Freeze had Nora Freeze.
Ah, bloody Nora.
This is the first time Mr. Freeze was given depth, was turned from less of a villain and more into a victim of circumstance and very much a tragic character. And that's why this one is done so well as Mr. Freeze, because it's the first one doing Mr. Freeze as the Mr. Freeze we know today.
Yes, Mr. Freeze with a proper origin rather than in the case of how he was in the bits of Batman 66 where I've seen where it is just, I'm a guy and I freeze things.
Oh yes.
Or even, I mean, Batman and Robin came after this, and that still falls into the same, I'm a guy who's
But
cold.
yeah. But I'm pretty isn't Nora Freeze in that one?
Very potentially,
I
but
think she might be.
they've still lent into just that. They've gone too far into the cold element rather than being like, this is a character. We're not just going off the concept here. They've gone, yeah, but he's cold. Gone,
well,
yeah, but he's also
even recently in the comics, they did do when I say recently, it's probably like 5 years ago because that's when this one came out. But the New 52, they actually did Mr. Freeze again, and they turned him back into this terrible villain. They actually made him more of a lunatic by saying Nora Freeze is just a random patient. So it's all Mr. Freeze is very weirdly done in Batman lore. He's either done really, really well or terribly. There's no in between. And Heart of Ice was without it, Mr. Freeze would just be terrible. And Heart of Ice isn't just known for how it does Mr. Freeze. It is often seen as the best episode in Batman the Animated Series.
I do disagree with that though.
But not just by the fans, but also by critics as well, because the TV show won a daytime Emmy for best writing. Outstanding writing.
It's all well and good, but I disagree with that being the best.
Why do you disagree?
Because it's good, and there are good elements from it, but and it's great for what it did with Mr. Freeze. But other than that, I don't think there's anything to stand out. Like you've got obviously Mr. Freeze is the big element to that. It's like, yeah, cool, we've got a great backstory for him. That's basically it. Like you've got that nice bit when the Batman saves that guy with the legs, sure. But then doesn't he save the day by just throwing chicken soup at him or something?
You completely lost me for a second. I was like, saves the guy with the legs. I was like, how does he use that? In my mind, I had him grabbing a guy by the legs and just dragging him across. But no, that back to tank thing. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's actually quite interesting because a part of me,
other than the Mr. Freeze origin, I find it quite a generic stop the monster of the week kind of story.
Yeah, because a part of me does agree with you, and as I've just said, Forgotten is my favorite episode, so it's like it isn't my favorite. I think it's a very strong episode, but a part of me does agree with you. It's
like I'm not.
I'm annoyed. I
bad,
no, I know. But it's like, yeah,
it is amazing. It's amazing, but I sort of like my best and my favorite align in the animated series, and that is Beware the Grey Ghost. That's not just going to go, because Adam West is in it. No, I think it's an incredibly layered story and there's a lot of meta things going on. I think it's an incredibly well written thing. To me, it's not just a monster of the week thing. You've got things about Batman as a fandom, you've got Batman as a character, you've got Bruce Wayne as a character, you've got Bruce Wayne's grief, you've got Adam West, you've got all these things all going on in 25 minutes. Yet Heart of Ice is just Mr. Freeze got an origin story. Throw chicken soup at him. The end. That's basically it.
It's not just no, I
like it's layered.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, that's good. But I do think Heart of Ice is quite layered as well, because I do really enjoy how Heart of Ice blurs the lines between good and evil. Like the Grey Ghost is a good episode, but the villain is very much the villain there. Whereas in this, the villain is Boyle. I forget his first name. Why have I forgotten his first name? Is Mr. Boyle from Gothcorp. And it's the villain isn't Mr. Freeze, he's the victim. And I like it being more.
Things, but it's the kind of thing I'd say is the difference is Beware the Grey Ghost isn't about the villain. There happens to be a villain, but it's like that's not the point. Whereas the Mr. Freeze one, Heart of Ice, how many things have we seen where the villain's quite sympathetic? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, all right.
It's been done a billion times.
Since Batman the Animated Series.
But whereas the Grey Ghost, I can't think of anything that has the same kind of layer
and does it without being cheesy
and meta narrative that Beware the Grey Ghost does.
Yeah,
I could write an essay on Beware the Grey Ghost.
I think I can tell that. I think I do. Yeah, I can tell. Damn, I should have done forgotten. Then I could have my own.
Well, we'll do that
episode.
next week.
Oh yeah, we will. But no, Heart of Ice I do really like, and I do find Mr. Freeze to be one of my favorite Batman villains because of the fact he is so conflicted, and often Batman finds it tough to punish Mr. Freeze because it's like this guy, he's tortured, and the only reason he's going after Ferris Boyle, there we go, that's his name, is because of what he did. It's not for any other reason. He was just trying to save his wife, and I find that really wonderful actually, and it's a great, and it's I think the episode is good for kids as well, like for just for people, because it shows the moral. Its moral of the story isn't about don't get revenge, because well it is kind of, but it's also that the evil people do get their comeuppance in the end. Because my favorite line of the entire show is "Good night, humanitarian," when Batman says that to Ferris Boyle when he's stuck in the ice and he just leaves him there for the police. It's one of my favorite lines because it's very much just like, yeah, Batman will stop Mr. Freeze from killing you and killing all these people, but really he's not doing it to save you. He is because it's part of his code, but realistically, I believe Batman is deep down doing it to save Mr. Freeze from going that step further, you know? And I find that incredibly poetic. And one thing I love about Batman villains is how they can be so layered. Like even Joker, he's an evil piece of work. But in some of the comics, and like The Killing Joke, he's given this layer where he is evil and terrible, but you can understand, you don't sympathize with why he is what he is because he chooses to be evil, but you can understand what pushed him there, and it adds layer. And I do love that about the villains in Batman, and Batman the Animated Series does it wonderfully. But yeah, but with and chicken soup. Sorry, what's the best way to fight a cold? It was just in brackets in my notes.
It's a pathetic ending, I do think.
I get what you mean, but it's still a kids' show and it is quite nice. But I think I have a real soft spot for this episode because I really like this episode.
Yeah, no, I'm saying I love this episode, but it's the kind of thing where I just think, is it really number? Like when people say Blink is the best Doctor Who episode, I go, is it though? Because the Doctor's not even in it. That's basically how I feel about this one. It's kind of like, is this really the best one? Because you've got other episodes that are far more deep than throw a warm thing at the cold man. Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough. But you've been blabbering a lot about the Grey Ghost.
Grey Ghost, god damn it.
The Grey Ghost. Beware the Grey Ghost.
I was
Starring.
about to sing the theme tune, but I can't even remember what it is, considering this is the most... That's the one. Considering this is my most watched episode of Batman the Animated Series. It's the kind of episode I go, oh, I really fancy Batman the Animated Series. And then I watch this one, and that's that fix sorted. Then I can move on with my life.
That is me with Forgotten. That is basically what I do. It's
That's
either
basically-
Forgotten or any episode with Robin in. I love Robin in this.
Yeah, it's probably the reason I haven't watched series 3 or 4, because it's like going, oh, I really fancy watching Batman Animated Series. Let's just watch Grey Ghost first. And then that does it. I go, right, as that box ticked, I can move on. So it's got everything in it for me, that one has.
No.
Obviously, I mean, I did say this isn't the only reason I love it, but the first note, because my notes are always plus or a minus, and then my note
You're
afterwards.
very black and white there, and it's like, where's your greys?
I've got one just bullet point, but that comes that's from Robin's Reckoning. That's when I had an idea, but I thought, is this a positive or a negative?
We're not on Robin's Reckoning. We're on the Grey Ghost.
I was teasing. I wasn't going to say what it was.
Always teasing.
But my first plus for Beware the Grey Ghost is just Adam West. That's all it says. So I'm here going, it's not just because Adam West is in it. Damn it! And the first thing I write down is Adam West.
No, Beware the Grey Ghost. It's such an easy thing to get wrong, this idea. Bringing in an old actor who played the character in kind of this meta, fourth wall breaking story. It's so easy to do badly. And I think it's probably done badly in loads of other mediums, and it's hard for me to give you specifics, but I'm sure it has been done in a bad way. But it is done brilliantly. Like, it is such an incredible, it's self-aware, but also quite self-effacing, but also it's not, the show itself isn't up itself. It's uplifting what it's like to be a fan of Batman. And I think that is wonderful.
And also, I mean, I don't know the ages of the people who made Batman the Animated Series, but one would assume they grew up watching 66. So it's their way of doing a love letter to Batman 66 while also pointing out the things they did wrong. And I think that's the kind of the really nice line for it to have. Because isn't there a fun fact that if they couldn't get Adam West, they weren't going to do the episode? Isn't that? I'm sure I've
heard that somewhere, yes. But when it comes to fun facts for this episode, sorry if I'm derailing you, but the most important thing for this episode isn't anything to do with the episode, really. It's the fact it validated Adam West's term as Batman. Because at the time, a lot of people were very much, because this was post Michael Keaton's Batman and Tim Burton's iteration, people were very much like, Adam West. They were always trashing the poor guy, saying that he was a terrible version, blah, 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 blah. But what this show did, this episode, is it validated him being Batman. It said, yeah, he was Batman and he was good. He was his own version. It was giving him time in the spotlight again and really showing you that there's a place for that kind of hero in today's world, and really showing you that. And I think the best way of doing it is by showing, as the episode did, he was basically Batman. Like, Batman had heroes when he was younger, that kind of thing, and they were cheesy and they're good and there's a place for them, and it's
also
really
a way
wonderful.
of also saying, it's also a way of saying you're literally watching a version of Batman now that you wouldn't have if it wasn't for that, because Batman 66 is what first introduced him as the pop culture icon, as we've said in a previous episode. And without this fella, you don't get to this fella. So it was like, I very much enjoy that, as it's just, I did put represents how 66 affected 90s Batman, because it is saying you don't get to us without them.
And it's a wonderful thing doing that. But the episode itself, I think it's a strong episode.
Yeah, and even as an episode, like, just ignoring what it represents for the wider Batman fandom, it's a good kind of an interesting look at Batman, because it's how many origin films have we seen where he just sees a few bats, then he goes, aha, Batman. But in this one, it kind of goes, he saw those bats, and instead of then having some deranged idea to seeing bats fly over you and think, I'm going to dress up as one of you, it kind of implies, well, actually, it all plays into the trauma. It all comes together because in his child brain, his parents are dead. He combines that with this TV show he watches, and then he sees the bats, and then he goes, aha, Grey Ghost Batman. I've got an idea here. And
It's
I like that as an
mm.
interpretation there.
I also like it because
And also the fact that I love one of my favorite things, like I'd love, I wish would kind of be explored slightly more in Batman interpretations, is the way that Alfred basically failed Bruce Wayne. Because if he had just sent him to therapy, Batman wouldn't have happened. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just take him to grief counseling, he'd be all right. But instead, Alfred probably just went, watch this TV show. And then that's made him go, beating people up is quite good, isn't it?
Goggles.
And I quite like if you interpret that as well. It's like how the way Alfred failed, and basically Batman is Bruce Wayne, rather. I always say Batman when I mean Bruce Wayne, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, Batman sees more, he calls himself Batman in his own brain. He doesn't refer to himself as Bruce.
Okay, so technically
You're correct.
Correct. But yeah, I just like that as like it's a weird trauma thing where his parents are dead. Alfred hasn't helped him, so instead he just goes, TV show, let's do that. And it's a strange, you can only really put it in something pop culturally like an animated series. Like I think if you put that imagine if in the Batman, which is looking to be very dark and gritty, as in with Robert Pattinson, they went, yeah, he got the idea from a TV show. You'd be like, no, come on.
But also all this episode did was put it front and center. I believe that everyone is influenced by what they watch when they're younger. Obviously, like I'm heavily influenced by Batman the animated series, but I still talk about it, But I'm sure there's loads of shows that are somewhere in the back of my mind that I don't remember, like I can't recall properly, but they're all there and they all made up kind of my beliefs and all that kind of thing. So although this kind of stuff probably won't be front and center in the Batman, the Grey Ghost, but it's still important, and it would still be there if it were a real thing. But in this episode, it does put it front and center, and obviously because it is an animation, as you've said, it works, and it's allowed to do this bit weirder thing. And the episode itself I think it's incredibly strong because of how it is meta, but it's not forcing itself in any place. It's very much this kind of story is very real and can happen. An actor at a work known for a famous thing, blah blah blah, but it kind of all falls through. But then you just add a splashing of a guy in tights who wears a cape and pointy ears, and then you get something a bit different. But it's a very heartwarming story, I think. And yes. I think the main thing here is it's the idea that, for me, a part of me that really enjoys this episode is because Batman had a hero when he was younger. And for me, Batman's kind of my hero when it comes to pop culture. And that's a really nice parallel. And when I was younger, a lot of that would have kind of gone over my head. But now watching it, it's like,
the way that Grey Ghost has inspired Batman is the way that Batman inspires the audience, and it's that continuous layer upon layer thing. See what I'm getting at here? You got layers that you don't have. I like considering Heart of Ice is literally called Heart. I think there is more heart in this one because there's far more. It's a love letter from the people who have made it. There's a love letter from the actual character. There's a love letter from the audience. There's just so many different things that go, well, that represents that, and this represents this. That I think it makes it far more wholesome and enjoyable watch.
It's dark.
I don't think wholesome is something you get to say about Batman very often.
No,
especially in a story where buildings are blowing up and things.
That's something I'd say a lot about the animated series. Not the New Adventures of Batman, which is the 4th season, like that new one, you know what I'm talking about? The first
Yeah.
3 series of Batman, the animated series, I'd say it is relatively wholesome as a show. I think it's dark, it's gritty, but it doesn't go out of its way to be depressing. You know, it doesn't, if it's got 2 options where Batman either saves the day or he fails, it'll choose he saves the day. It doesn't go out of its way to make the audience feel worse because at its core, it's still a kids show. And I
Mm.
think that is, I think for Batman the Animated Series, it being a kids show is so important for it not being just too dark. It helps keep it just above water, and that means you've got those layers, and it has to layer the dark elements. Otherwise, it is just dark. It has to layer it with some light, with some wholesome. It has to really work there, and I think that's probably the reason why it still holds up today. You know, it's
Mm.
just it's such a wonderful show. It's nice being able to talk about it in such a critical manner. But yeah,
I also something else I wrote as well was kind of like when we did the 89 episode. Was that last week? Why does that feel like long ago?
I
It
feel
was only last
I
week.
know.
I feel like that was about 3 years ago or something that we did that. But we were talking about how people didn't react to Michael Keaton's casting kind of very well. You know, they were always saying, "Oh, he's a sitcom actor," and I kind of think I kind of think the villain. I kind of think the villain in this is kind of that sort of loose representation on kind of talk. This is how I interpreted it anyway, as on toxic fans. And he's kind of like going, "I'm going to do this show the way I remember this show to get my ways," blah, 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 that kind of thing. I think that's kind of because this is obviously post Keaton. I kind of think, I wonder if that's you've got they're writing it as in, oh, do you remember Batman 66, that thing we all loved, but then you've still got the other side that is like, oh, that was crap, and Keaton's a crap Batman, and da 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 da. And I think that the villain in it, whatever the hell he's called. Yeah, but I think that's how I interpreted him to represent that the other side of the fan base that is like, no, we don't like Adam West.
Yes. And that's I 100% agree with you there. That's very much what it likes today. You know, Robert Pattinson gets cast. Half the community is like, ooh, he might be quite good. The other half's like, no, what are you doing? I love Ben Affleck. And then when it was Ben Affleck, they hated Ben Affleck. It's like, what's going on? But it's very
That's us
much
two
that.
though. That's us two though, isn't it? You were
Yeah,
going, oh, Robert Pattinson, interesting, and I was going, really?
but
Guy from
that's
Twilight.
but you no, I get you. But you get what I'm saying when it comes to listen, he'll be good, okay? I hope he's good. Otherwise, this will be I'll just
Yeah,
delete all these videos.
I wasn't going, yeah, because I went, really, Robert Pattinson, but I didn't go, right, let's get a bomb on a remote control car and let's drive this around. That'd be
I
a bit
mean,
extreme,
if you
wouldn't it?
had the remote control car, you might have tried it. You
Got a
haven't got
drone,
the
I could do
tools.
that.
Eat this, Robert Pattinson, and
Airstrike.
it's just like the smallest popper, just like boop, boop, boop. At, but
Obviously, it's a drone, so it'd be dead loud, so he'd hear it coming.
yeah.
Like, what is that?
But it's
Van
really
again.
slow, like
And then it finally gets there and just goes, what was the point of that? Damn you, Robert Pattinson. Anyway.
Oh, brilliant. But no, the villain is very much a parallel to the community.
Toxic
And
fandom.
yes, toxic fandom. And Batman is the other side of that fandom. You know, it's just a lovely episode, really. And the way it tells the story of all sides of the story, gives you what it's like to be on the receiving end with Simon Trent, Adam West's character. And then it shows you what it's like to. Batman is brilliant at the parallels. I've said this before. Joker and Batman are 2 sides of the same coin because they're both results of a bad day. It's how you deal with that. And then you've got this episode. One thing, the Grey Ghost, Adam West. And then you have 2 responses to it. You have Batman's, Bruce Wayne's, which is taking it in and kind of learning from it, kind of just the morals, that kind of thing, and just kind of using that in a good way kind of thing in a subconscious. And then you've got the other side of it, the toxic fandom, who makes remote control bombs. And it's like, that's the aggression, that's kind of the, oh, this isn't as good as I wanted it to be. This is the kind of the entitlement, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And it's the I want more. It's greed, really, and it's a parallel. And I think it's very well done because it has these parallels, but slap bang in the middle, you have Simon Trent, and you see really what it's like to be on the receiving end of this. And that's like, you have just being pushed aside, or you have being actively abused verbally, mentally, physically, all that kind of stuff. And you have what it's like in the end of the episode, which I think is probably one of the most beautiful moments from the show, where Bruce Wayne says to him at the book signing that the Grey Ghost was his hero. And just have that kind of, even that tiny subtle thing to someone who plays that kind of character, it means a lot, you know. Like,
Do you think Simon Trent knows Bruce Wayne's Batman when he
I
walks
like to
away and
think so.
says
Even
that?
if he doesn't, I like to think so.
Yeah. Excited because when he says, does he say like, I used to watch it with my dad when he signs the
Yeah.
video? Then when he walks away, he says, "You're my hero." And I'm pretty sure, doesn't Batman earlier on in the
He
episode say,
mentioned that, yes.
You're my hero. So I do think when he walks away, considering at the I do find it quite weird that at the video signing it's a bunch of kids. Like,
I
'cause there's a
mean,
bunch of
listen,
and
the
so
animators didn't want to draw
a bunch of
old
sweaty
middle-aged
nerds.
man, like,
But that's what it would actually be. But I
yes,
was watching,
but
'cause I was thinking, none of you kids would remember the Great Ghost. Why would you be getting a video signing? But anyway, and then it's just Batman, well, Bruce Wayne just in the middle of it. And I do think he'd be like, who's this weirdo? And then when he says that thing, I do think when he walk away, you think that's Batman in it.
yeah. And yes, I'm pretty sure it is hinted at there. But even if the writers came out and said, no, that's not, he doesn't know, I'd still be like, yeah, he does. Because he does. Of course he has to. It's wonderful. It's a brilliant episode. It really is.
I do also quite like that, the idea that Batman owns essentially Batman VHSs because because the way that I was essentially introduced to Batman the animated series is via VHS, essentially, because it was never on TV that I can remember. I wouldn't have had the channels. I only watched CBBC and CITV, so neither of them showed it. So the only way I know that I watched Batman the animated series back in the day when I was a wee boy was on a weird VHS I have that I'm not sure if it was episode. I was saying this to you yesterday. I'm not sure if it was episodes in order, because those episodes in order would have been would have been would have been Joker's favor, because the reason why I'm saying this is because we're now going to talk Joker's favor, and that was the one I remember. The episodes around it though are Fear of Clay and
Fear of Clay.
Vendetta. Feet of Clay. I can't read this. Look how small the writing is, right? Do you really think I can read that?
Look at that. I love it. They've gone, right, words or just big pictures. And it's tiny. It's less than half the size.
It is really like, sometimes I'm like, what am I reading here? So they're Feet of Clay, part 1 and 2. And then Vendetta. I have no idea what Vendetta's about. I don't know that from the title.
Vendetta.
Do you know what Vendetta is?
That's Vendetta. I'm going to...
But either way, I don't remember those being on the VHS. The VHS I had, I believe it was just a random selection of episodes, because I don't remember.
It's the Killer Croc one.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't on the video then. But the biggest episode I remember from that VHS that I owned was Joker's Favor. So it's probably one of the episodes I've seen the most times, just because that was the only one I had on VHS and whatever other ones. But I'll have to find out one day what else is on that.
It's like me with
video.
It's like me with the first series. It's like, I know all that from like the back of my hand. You give me the third series, I can name you I know the episodes, but I can't really name them straight away. Exactly.
So it's like, it was, we wanted to do a Joker episode, and it was a bit like, well, which one do we choose? And I think that was quite a good one to choose, really, because I have a lot of nostalgia attached to it, and of course, Harley's first appearance.
Yes.
Though it comes late in the series, so I do think, does she not pop up before that?
I mean, the internet told me it was her first appearance, so I'm almost certain it.
But you've also said to me that the episodes are out of order, because
there
are 28 episodes in this series, and this is episode 22.
Mm-hmm. When they were
So that's
first aired, I'm pretty sure they were out of order.
So that's 21 episodes before this that she doesn't appear in.
Yeah.
Is she not in The Last Laugh? Christmas with the Joker?
Nope,
Be
she's
a
not
Clown?
Nope.
She's not in any. Okay, so it is Harley's first appearance then. It just seems
Last
quite late in the series.
If I remember the Last Laugh, no, she's. I can 100%. I can tell you she isn't in any of those previous ones, because Be a Clown is very much just a Joker centric thing with the mayor's son. The Last
Oh yeah,
Laugh
I know
is
that.
the
I know that
one
one.
with the barge and the weird robot clown. What was the other one you
Oh yeah,
mentioned? Christmas with the Joker is very much his first
Christmas
one.
with
It's
the
a bit
Joker.
rough around the edges, that episode, but it's just Joker. It is just Joker and a train for some reason.
And Christmas by any chance?
Yeah, that's also.
Yeah, so it
Yes.
is her first appearance then, but it just seems really late in the series. You know what I mean? Considering.
Yeah, I can't tell you for certain where I heard that Batman the Animated Series was aired out of order, but I don't think I would have latched onto that if it isn't true. But
If it isn't true, no.
I don't think it really makes a difference anyway. If I am wrong, shoot me. That's yeah, just kill me because I'm gonna hate myself for getting it wrong. But I heard that somewhere. But either way, the series has never really been one to follow continuity, no matter what, really. Even with the other series or anything like that, it's all a bit. It
Yeah,
is
that's one of the. I only have like 2 negative points, right? Just for things that I generally don't like about the animated series. First one is I was saying to you last night, why does Batman wear the cowl when he's in the Batcave? It really frustrates me. And when he talks to Alfred, he does the Batman voice. And
He's
I'm
got to
going,
get in the zone.
there is no need to do this. They are very minor things that annoy me. But every single time I've ever watched Batman the animated series, I'm going, why is he wearing the cowl in the Batcave? Minor thing bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is the way Robin just kind of pops up every now and then. There's no sort of like continuity for a set of Robin episodes. It's just like Robin's here, he's gone. He's here, he's gone.
Yeah, but he's
He's
at
here, he's gone,
college.
But it's like, are you with Robin or are you not? There is no indication that you know Robin at any point besides when he's just there. And the next episode he's gone again. Other than that.
Yeah, no, but just so the whole series is a bit kind of. It doesn't have a continuity. It's just a series of like a monster of the week kind of thing. Yeah. I've never really found that to be detrimental, really. I do find that it can hinder a full watch through because it's like it doesn't keep you hooked, you know. I really like it, so I'm already hooked, but it's not like you finish an episode, then it's like, how's this going to progress?
Next?
Yes, it doesn't progress. It's very much like you finished an episode, and then do you want to see a different episode, or it's not? Do you want to see the next episode? It's very much a different one.
Another one. Yeah.
Yes. Which I think this, like Batman Animated Series, is the only Batman cartoon which is guilty for this, actually. Like even one of the most recent ones, the Batman, which I really love, actually, it's really underrated. That actually has a really it does have a feeling of being different each time, but it still has continuity. Like once Robin's introduced, Robin's there for the rest of the show. Yes. Once Batgirl's introduced, she's there for the rest of the show. And that kind of thing. And you have a first introduction to Batman, first introduction to a villain.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm saying it doesn't do with this. It's like Robin's here, then he's not here. Robin's here, then he's not. It's like, oh, is Robin with you or isn't he? Like that's the thing. Whereas, you know, the Batman, as you said, even though I've played that game, that game to death when I was a child, I don't think I actually ever watched the series.
I think with that series,
is that the one with the crazy? Is that the one with the crazy looking Joker?
With the dreadlocks and the sleeves. Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen some of it. Okay, I have seen some of it then.
You would have only seen some of the first series because
I remember the game more than anything. I'm doing that because that's how he
I know, I get you. Most people won't understand what the hell you're doing, but I fully understand what that is.
A real niche reference.
But but the thing with actually the Batman, the first series was the only one available in England. The rest were region locked. America back then didn't like giving us DVDs.
Yeah, that must have been on a TV channel I had, or I watched bits on YouTube or something. Because I don't know how I'd have seen it otherwise.
I think that one was on TV. But enough of the Batman. Enough of the Batman. I'm sick of hearing about him. Back to the animated series, where we are going to talk about Joker's favor.
Yes. So what do you have to say about it then? Because I've got my nostalgia attached to it. What are your feelings on this one?
I think it's a good episode. I don't think it's one of the best. I don't think it's a brilliant one,
I mean, no.
but
If it was the best Joker episode, I'd be a bit concerned, really.
yeah, but but it's a fine episode, and I think it does have some good moments. And as I've said to you, it is Harley's first appearance. Um, Whenever I say stuff like that, my brain goes, "Yeah, but is it really?" And then I'm like, "Yes, it is, you idiot. Have some confidence."
We've established
Yeah,
that.
but and it actually does have a little reference to that in the episode where Batman first meets Harley, and she tries to trick him, and he's very much just like, "No, no, no, I'm not falling for that." So it does
Hmm.
have a little nod to that, but as with Batman the Animated Series, as we've discussed, it's not very good at giving us a character. Ba-da-da-da! The only time it really ever does that is with Two-Face, really. But this is just
Yeah.
most villains don't really get a huge introduction, but this is Harley's first appearance, and I think it's an okay episode. I think it does have some good moments. I think Harley's very strong in it. I think Harley is one of the best characters from the animated series. The voice actor is wonderful. Her name is Arlene I can't. Aha,
Well, there's
yes,
something I
Arlene
wrote down
Sorkin.
about it was because she is from the animated series,
Yes.
isn't she? As not many people actually know that. I find that quite interesting. They're not many. But anyway, because she's from the animated series, it brings it. We'll come on to this soon. But the idea, if you're saying what is the definitive Batman, that is an argument that is evidence that could lend the argument to say this is the definitive version of Batman. Because I mean, arguably, is it really arguable at this point? Who is the biggest character? Who is the biggest and most popular character in the current DC slate of films? It's probably Harley Quinn, because she's the only one that's continued through
Mhm.
various reboots. She's the only one that stayed there. It's like Suicide Squad. Yeah, you stay on. You could do Birds of Prey. That didn't really work out. Let's stay on. Let's do another Suicide Squad. Yeah, you're still here. And she's kind of her and Wonder Woman at this point. Her, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman are basically the only three at this point.
No, and yeah, Harley's been the most consistent in those, really. But I do think Harley's success isn't just down to the writing in the animated series, which is brilliant. I do think a part of it is down to the voice actor, Arlene Sorkin, because she's incredible at making the character so just cheeky but nuanced. It gives she gives Harley depth while also making her kind of upbeat and kind of cheeky. I think she's brilliant at doing that, and I do think Harley is probably one of my favorite Batman characters and one of the best. I do think she's just brilliant, and the animated series is responsible for that. And as you were saying, it is an argument for it being the definitive version, because what else? What other Batman mediums are allowed to add a new character and it become permanent? The
And
comics
also,
are
it's the
really
same
the
thing.
only ones that can do that, but even then.
And also the same thing you're saying about Mr. Freeze as well. This is the thing that introduced Mr. Freeze's backstory. That is now the general known backstory from,
Mhm.
yeah, you've said it's been changed and whatever. But even like,
It's been
again, to
changed
bring up,
for worse.
yeah, but again, to bring up your nemesis, Gotham, when that introduced Mr. Freeze, they did a version of the storyline from Heart of Ice. I can't remember how well they executed that. I remember quite enjoying it, but I don't remember really how well it had really weird white hair. Anyway, but again, it's that argument that it's like the comics is, of course, well, the comics. So that's a given. I was saying, because obviously, if you went, what's the definitive version of Batman? You'd obviously go the comics. So that's just a given. But if you lift it, the adaptations from the comics, what becomes the definitive thing that you look to? If you want to watch something or listen to something, where do you immediately go to? And it's the Batman the Animated Series. There's a lot of evidence already building up from these 5 episodes alone that is like,
Mhm.
well, it's this one, isn't it?
Yep. But let's be more specific on Joker's favor for now, because we'll have that little discussion in a minute. But
Yes.
really, the way I feel about Joker's favor, obviously, quickly, Mark Hamill, incredible, best Joker ever.
No matter what he's doing, you got to
Don't at
enjoy
me.
Mark Hamill.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and he's as strong in this as he is in any episode. But the episode itself, I think it's a nice, simple episode. It's a nice story, but nothing kind of groundbreaking. And the Joker's
Yeah,
great as ever, and Harley's
thing
the
I
standout. That's just how it is for me.
the thing I like about it kind of comes to the Joker because I like the idea that it's not just the Joker, because every time we see the Joker, mostly it's some grand scheme, isn't it? It's something he's planned out, and it's going to be this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen. But then if that goes wrong, I've got this backup plan, blah 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 blah. But in this one, there is no grand scheme. It's basically the Joker is just driving. He might be off to a grand scheme, but he's just or he's just popping to the shops.
I mean,
Either
it looked
way,
like he was going on holiday. He's got all the
he's got a lot of luggage.
luggage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's kind of just driving, and then this guy has road rage, crashes into the Joker, and then the Joker's like, right, how can I get something out of this situation? And then so creates a plan out of that. But it's not like this big thing that the Joker was planning, and then Batman's got to try and work out what it is and stop it. It's just Joker going, you've annoyed me. Now let's annoy you back, and then Batman stepping into that situation. But it could have very easily, if they changed some things, you could have done an episode without Batman in this case here. You could have done Batman Light, to nick a Doctor Who phrase, episode here. And I quite like that just as a concept. Just, yes, I like this episode because it's one of the first ones I watched, but also it's just a nice step out of the usual Joker territory that we have.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. And I think although Harley doesn't get a huge it's a nice, she does still get a good bit of screen time for it.
Yeah, and I actually wrote, because it was quite funny, because I said to you, and I wrote it as a note, I wrote, not a very grand entrance for Harley, and then the thing about the definitive thing. But then the next note along was then, but the cake scene is actually a better introduction. Maybe that would have been, when she does the whole, I am Harley, blah, 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 the joke. That's actually quite a, then she gets the grand entrance, but it's just a bit later on in the episode.
Yeah.
So maybe they should have introduced her there and then had her in outfit before.
It's almost like they wrote that grand entrance before they wrote the rest of the script.
Yeah, where she just pops up before and it's kind of like, who are you? But so I do think she kind of gets a grand entrance. It's probably as grand as she probably could have in this series, where it's not about that. It just goes, villain's there, let's get on with it. Besides, like you said, Two-Face they have to transition him from Harvey Dent to Two-Face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a fine episode. It's nice just to see kind of like what it's like to live in Gotham if you came across the Joker. I don't know if that's a question he ever really is and not really asked very often. Like, if you were just in Gotham and you bumped into the Joker, what would happen? This kind of tells you, like, he was just going to take advantage of your life and ruin it. And
he was initially just going to murder you, and then he thought, let's change this up a bit. Like, you just. Well, the lesson of this episode really is Harley Quinn's amazing, and also don't have roadway.
Roadway. Don't have roadway.
Ah, Jesus, George, you shoot me. Right. Let's move on.
You want to go on to the final one, on to Robin's Reckoning?
Robin's Reckoning. Some of my favourite episodes. It's a two-parter. Robin's Reckoning. What did you think?
I like it.
Oh, God.
It's good. Yeah, so I didn't really, I didn't have many things to say about it. I had one negative point, and that was just Robin's intermittent appearances, as I've said. The plus was bizarrely just a thing about Bruce Wayne spilling over his drink, of all things. So I thought it was quite nice, quite it was the same thing I was thinking about Michael Keaton last week, like that kind of clumsy awkwardness. I thought I kind of represented that same kind of thing.
You can relate. I get you.
Yeah, sure. And then the other last 2 points were they were nothing. They were just bullet points because I didn't know if they were positives or negatives. And they were just weird that Batman channels his grief into crime fighting, but doesn't let Robin do the same, despite grooming him. Is Batman against revenge? And then I put, or is he just selfishly against himself grieving anymore?
Well, he does actually let Robin channel his grief into crime fighting. The point is, he doesn't want that grief to consume him to the point where he'll kill Tony Zuko.
I suppose so.
I,
But then I suppose so. But then he says, "I just didn't want him to take you." And I was
yeah,
like,
I
"Oh,
know.
that's all well and good. But that's more for your benefit than Robin's, really, isn't it?" I mean, yeah, Robin will be dead, but you has to deal with the effects of that. Robin doesn't have to, does he?
Yeah, but I think it was for two reasons. I don't think he was just. I don't believe at the end when he says that. I don't believe he's like, oh, it's just because I didn't want to lose you. I'm like, that's okay, bit selfish, but it's like I get that. That's fair enough, but I don't think that's purely the
The
reason.
reason.
I really like this two-parter because I really like Robin as a character. Actually, and I think Dick Grayson is the best Robin. It's just fact, and it was nice seeing the dynamic between the two characters here, especially because in the rest of the whole show, it's usually quite pleasant, their dynamic. But in this, the dynamic duo
Is
is
a bit
very much
challenged.
yes, and that's what it would be like because they are close and there's very much a father-son relationship there, but Dick Grayson is very much his own person. He's not Robin really. Because well he is, but he becomes Nightwing, and that's because he's very much his own person, and he isn't as dark or moody as Bruce Wayne. He isn't, because he's kind of not he's come to terms with what's happened to his family better than Bruce has. And you can say that is because maybe Dick Grayson is better at dealing with grief, or maybe it's because Bruce did do quite a good job at turning him into a groomed crime fighter. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Into the point where he's I don't like saying that, groomed. No, he isn't.
But that is what he does, though.
Yeah, but he gets a choice. He doesn't just force the kid into it.
Does he?
Yeah, he
We
doesn't
never see
need.
that. Well, you never see that in this episode. As far as this episode implies, Batman saw an orphan and went, ah ha ha, took him under his wing, and then went, put on a mask, boy. You are now my crime
No,
fighter.
no.
That's
In
as
this
far as you
episode,
see.
no.
That's as
In this
much as you see in
episode,
this episode.
Dick
Because it's
takes it.
like,
No. Right, no.
Because in
Dick
this
takes it.
episode,
No, Dick goes for
right.
himself and he
Shush.
goes fighting, and
Yeah.
then Batman saves him. He doesn't get the kid and puts him in
Yeah,
an outfit
but
first.
only because Alfred says you need to spend more time with him. So instead of just going, okay, let's have nice fun times, he teaches him how to fight.
No, but he is having nice fun times with him, and then the
We
kid
never see
decides.
that. We never.
You do.
We
There's
never
the
see them.
fencing. You do.
That's it. Yeah, that's him teaching him how to fight.
That's just fencing. That's not. If he were doing, wah, then I'd get it.
Yeah,
but
but
that's just fencing.
Fun times is going, come on, Dick, let's go out to the garden and let's play catch. Not going, here's a weapon, I'm going to teach you how to use it.
It's fencing. Fencing is a sport. And then, no, right. And then when he goes to, the only reason he becomes Robin in this is because Dick decides to go out on his own and find Tony Zuko. And then Batman's got to go save him. It's the kid's own damn fault. But no. Robin has a choice. I believe that. Don't you say otherwise, because it makes me very sad.
No, he doesn't. He was groomed.
Fuck you. But well, that was quite aggressive. That sorry. But he had a choice. But then
he wanted to be Robin after he'd been groomed into thinking he wanted to be Robin.
But he he had a choice to the point where he did leave being Robin to become Nightwing. Like he did still want to be a crime fighter, just not under Batman. You know, it's fine. It's fine. But when it comes to actually being Robin,
if you say so.
When it comes to being Robin, just the best at it. Dick Grayson's the best at it because there is an actual father-son relationship between Batman and Robin there. So they are very much in sync when it comes to their fighting styles. And he got the most training. Whereas when it comes to Tim Drake, it's, you know, when it comes to the other Robins, they're always latched onto something else. Whereas with Dick Grayson, he's very much, this is my dad. He wears spandex. I also wear spandex, but I don't have any legs because he wants to see my legs. I don't know why he doesn't want me to wear trousers.
Because he was groomed.
Okay.
It's a very dodgy relationship, if you really think about it.
Listen, as a kid, I would have been fine with it if I were Robin. Thank you very much. Give me those legless chaps.
But he'd have made you think you were.
I don't like this. This makes me feel. Ugh.
That's why I didn't have many notes about this episode, because as I was watching it, I was thinking, this is a bit questionable, isn't it, by
No,
today's
it isn't.
standards?
No, it isn't. It's Robin.
It is.
Fuck you. So I really like this episode because I've always found Robin to be a very interesting character. Because I liked how this episode really shows off that dynamic between Batman and Robin, as I've said. But I do like how you get to see Robin be more of his own crime fighter here, and you get hints of him becoming Nightwing through that. And one of my favorite bits actually is seeing Batman younger, because in the first part of the two-parter, we saw Batman before when you saw him younger, and he was much more aggressive, and he was very much a revenge-fueled demon. And I did like that, how he was very
I
much.
prefer the different logo on his chest as well.
Yes, I really do like that logo.
I
And
actually prefer it to this one.
yeah, did you notice on his glove as well? He didn't have his spikes. It was just a normal glove, no spikes.
No, I didn't see it. I didn't
Just
notice
some
that, but
really interesting details on that younger version of the suit. But it was just nice seeing a younger Batman and seeing that aggression and seeing how he was focused 100% on Tony Zuko, because he very much relates to Dick Grayson, because Dick Grayson went through very much the same thing that Bruce went through. And I feel like it was nice because Bruce never really, in the animated series, never got to 100% focus on Joe Chill, his parents' killer. He could only really, this is the only time he got to focus on someone that similar with Tony Zuko. And I find that very, very interesting, actually. And I think the main thing when it comes to Dick Grayson's Robin and Batman, and this is me being serious now, no other jokes,
all
they
right.
have very similar tragedies in their lives. And I think the reason they are so good together is because they find solace in the fact that each other have gone through something very, very similar. And that's the reason Bruce takes him in. It isn't for grooming. It isn't for anything like that. It is because fuck you. It is because he sees that Dick has been through something, which he understands what it's like to be in that situation. And at the time, he didn't have a father figure. And yes, he adopts him because he wants to be that father figure for him, perhaps. But then he does get sidetracked with, I'm gonna go beat him up, go beat up Tony Zuko. And then it's like Alfred's being like, you numpty, be more of a father to the kid. And then Dick's like, I'm gonna go beat him up. So then you've got that parallel there. Because Dick is very much they are very similar, Dick and Bruce. And that's why they work so well together, because they're two peas of the same pod. But yeah, I really do like that two-parter because I do like Batman and Robin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like it. It's just the only thing is,
Don't
I
you
just kind
dare!
of think,
Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
no, the only thing is, I just kind of think, well, this is just the Dick Grayson origin story, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, I don't really think it does anything unique.
no, I think it tells it
It's
well.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, I like this, but I can't really go, I love this thing about Dick Grayson's origin story, because it's just like,
That's fair enough.
that's just the origin
Yeah,
story, isn't it? I don't think there's anything really specific to the animated series,
yeah,
which is why I struggled to write any notes about it. But
no, that's fair enough. As you can tell, Robin is probably one of my favorite characters. Because I'm now at this age where I'm like, if I were to be a superhero, I couldn't pull off Batman. But the legless tighty whities,
and the pants.
I think I could I could make those work. Thank you very much. But yeah. But no. Batman the
And
animated series.
yes, I can actually put away my notes now because that's everything I've said. But
I just have to scroll down to the bottom. Now, before we get on to proper overarching themes with this, and is it really the definitive version? Let me just say one thing. I've never heard anyone say scum quite like Kevin Conroy and actually been mildly concerned. Like if someone says scum, I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Kevin Conroy says scum. I'm like,
Scum.
oh! Ah! You know, he's it's because it's kids friendly. He can't say piece of can he? It has to be written like scum, and he really pulls that off. I think it's like when Batman says punk. It's like that's quite nice. It's quite well done, and I think it's just an interesting little tidbit there. But also, when it comes to the whole animated series, I really do like everyone's character design. It's simple, but I really like how they're undeniably the same character. Like they're simple, but they're sleek and effective, and it works in that city, and it's very much kind of comic book lifted. But it's just I really do like everyone's character design. It's very nice. The only character design I don't like, however, and this is even with the actual character writing, is Killer Croc. I really hate Killer Croc in this show, like with a violent passion, the way they do him. But other than that, I like all characters. I do, and their designs, and I think they're really nice.
Yeah. Why is he white?
And why? No, but he's not scary either. He's just played off to be this dumb thing.
But I mean, you were talking design though.
Yeah,
It's
I
like,
said design and characterization, but his design is terrible because he's just normal man sized. I've
yeah,
always seen Killer Croc as huge,
and he isn't really very croc-like, besides from
No.
a couple of scales on his shoulder.
and teeth, and even then they're not really very crocodile-like. And that guy doesn't. Yeah, he's not great. I really don't think it's a great character.
No, I'm not a fan of that. But other than that, I would agree with you. But again, it comes. We're already there, already at the bus station, so we might as well just embark. And that is on the definitive element, isn't it? Because it's that the reason the designs look so good is because it's just like, right, we need Two-Face as an idea. There he is. That is everything you need to know about him. Joker, there he is. That's everything you need to know. And it's all there in that.
It doesn't mess around. It doesn't try to be outlandish or insane, usually. It's very much, this is the character we're going for, Batman. Let's give him a nice, simple design. He's clearly Batman, but he's got a couple of little extra things, you know? Like Harley Quinn, for example. She's probably the one they put the most effort in when it comes to design wise, because they would have had to build her from the ground up. There's no starting point with that. But she's like, they design her as a Harley Quinn, but they give her a unique color scheme, which carries on throughout all mediums until today. And they did like it. There is such effort put into the designs, although they're so simple. You know, I really, really like them, and they match with the art style. They're very nice. But when I say match with the art style, I mean they match with Gotham as well, with that kind of old-timey, you can't pinpoint the time period down, but these costumes, you'd think they'd be around at that time. Because Batman's costume, my dude doesn't have any armor on. It's just a shirt. But that fits in the time, because it's very much, not many people have, there's no one really seems to have much armor back then. You know, no other costumes have that kind of thing. Everything seems the same. It's just really nice. It's really nice.
It's really nice. That's the thing. It's weird because it's all very Art Deco in 1920s.
That's the word.
But then all the costumes are 1940s. Like they've all got flat caps on and all that kind of thing. But then, like I said, I can say it definitively happens after 1950, because in the Grey Ghost episode, when they're in that guy's shop, there are toys of the creature from the Black Lagoon and whatever the alien one was called from that time. Oh, This Island Earth, I think, is the alien one from that time. And they were from the 1950s, those films. So it definitively happens after the 50s.
Yeah. But it's like, then Batman's car, who the hell has that kind of car? It's got a afterburner on the back. I love the afterburner. Thank you, Batman 1966, for the afterburner. Thank you for that.
Is that where it comes from originally?
Pretty sure, yeah. If I'm wrong, this bit will be edited out. That's the thing. I can edit this. It's brilliant. That's what I do. If I say something that isn't true, I'm just like, I didn't say it. But Another thing which this show does wonderfully is the character themes, by which I mean the music. Every single important character gets a new piece of music, or at least adapted from Tim Burton's score. Like Batman's, it was interesting hearing his actual theme. Yes, it's very much Tim Burton's main Batman theme, but it's very different. It is very different. It's the same rhythm, but it's different kind of instruments, and it is very different. But Robin, Catwoman, because we didn't get to talk about it, Catwoman gets a like Robin's theme is kind of it's more heroic, less dark. Catwoman's theme is very mischievous, kind of sneaky. Joker's theme is
Silly.
cheeky, but also quite creepy in parts. But they like all characters get a theme, and they represent the character's personality and who they are. And I think it's very important for the show to invoke kind of an audience response for that. It's brilliant actually, and I think I've said this before. Obviously, I love musical themes for characters, and I think this is done brilliantly in this show, and it's very important. And Shirley Walker, the composer, I do think she's probably the best at composing Batman. I also really like Christopher Drake's stuff, but when it comes to like Batman's music, when it comes to every character, she's just brilliant at it. And I'll talk more about her next week when we do Mask of the Phantasm, because that theme is
Yes, I agree.
I like music and sound effects. There was a train sound effect which Aiden, what's it called? The
Right. The thing was, I remember the what? What were you going to say then?
The placebo. What do you
No, that's all right.
what do you think I was going to say?
Something else. Right, you said to me when you watch these episodes, I just got goosebumps from a train sound effect, right? So I immediately went, "That's pathetic. Get over yourself."
I know, it's quite mean.
But I was in a bad mood that day. But
I
then
could tell. I was like, "Hey, what?"
But then when I watched these episodes, I couldn't find it. I was like, "What sound effect was he talking about?"
Because you didn't watch Cat in the Claw.
Oh, is that where it was from then?
Yeah.
Okay, that'll explain it then. Because I was like, going, what sound effect? But yeah,
There's no trains because you
no.
didn't watch the episode with the training. There's another
right.
episode which I get it more from, but it wasn't, as I said, it wasn't goosebumps per se, but that's the word
No,
that I couldn't think
the
of.
term you were looking for it's actually Proustian fashion, but the way that it was utilized is what's known as the Proustian effect, which is when you hear or see something or taste something or have some sort of one of your five senses which transports you back to a memory. That's the idea of it. I've always described it as that bit from Ratatouille where the critic eats the ratatouille and he just goes, "Whoa, I'm in my childhood again." It's basically anything that you see or hear, etc., that makes you have that effect. So that's what happened to you. So you went, "I've got goosebumps from a sound effect," when I was like, "Get over yourself," when really you had the Proustian effect, which made you think, "I'm 6 years old again."
Yes. I used the wrong word and Aiden decided to penalize me for it.
Yes. Because saying "I got goosebumps from a train" sound effect,
but it was a very
like...
specific sound effect, you son of a bitch. It's really latched onto my brain. I've been like, I'm gonna beat him up in a minute because of that. But it's a very specific sound. And then Aiden, do you want to know what Aiden said? Do you want to know what? Yes. Do you want to know what Aiden said? Well, then go stand at Piccadilly Square. He was proper sassy with me.
Because we were going on like train sound effects. I was going, well, if you like trains that much, just go to Manchester Piccadilly.
I know, he was proper mean to
me. Stand there all day listening to trains go by.
Just
and
breaking down
all day long.
Just crying.
I feel like a child again. All right, sir, move along. Have you got a ticket? No, I'm just here to hit the... Oh, okay. Security.
Oh, Jesus. You know, one day you're going to tell me you got goosebumps from something, and I'm just going to get so aggressive. You're going to be like, "Where'd this come from?" And I'm just going to bring this up.
Because whenever I say it, they're for genuine, like, moments. Like, somebody will say something or something will happen, and I'll go, "Oh, I got goosebumps from that." But when it's just...
But it wasn't, bro.
I got chills.
It's a very specific sound. but it brought me back. Moving down, right? You're being
I'm being facetious, but still doesn't make sense.
I mean, it does. Now that we come to the conclusion, I used the wrong word.
It does make sense if you said I had the Proustian effect.
I'm sorry, I
but-
didn't say I
and
had
then
the
I can-
Proustian effect. I'm not some sort of snob who knows the
And
word
then
Proustian. I'm sorry.
and then I can say, "Oh, I'm with you there." But if you say,
Oh, I'm with you. But when you say goosebumps, no, go fuck yourself. Sorry. Right.
Yes.
Batman. Had to get that off my
Well,
chest. I really
well.
had to get that off my chest. But
another moment to clip there.
Oh yes. But I've gone. Look at me. But no, is Batman the Animated Series the definitive version? I'll ask you first because I have an answer. What do you think?
I'm gonna say yeah. Obviously, the comics is the definitive one, so we're not talking about that. I mean, for an interpretation for wider media, what is the thing that if you said to somebody, "Let's get you into Batman," I think you have to point them to this. I don't think there's any other way you can do it. And the reason I can really say that is because I grew up on the Lego Batman games, and that is very much this transported into that, very much so. So I think you've got, even just from a generation of kids like me who have grown up with that and interpreting that as their version of Batman. On top of that, you've now got other things like Gotham taking the Heart of Ice storyline and doing that because that's just the version of Mr. Freeze they assume is correct. You've got Justice League very much casting what the hell is his name? J. Jonah Jameson. What's his name? J.K. Simmons. They've got J.K. Simmons cast in Justice League just because he looks a bit like the guy from the animated series. You've got Harley Quinn being the most successful and popular DC character at the moment in films, at least, but I believe probably in merchandise, and because she's got her own animated series that does really, really well and sparked the whole Batman Endeavors debate that we touched on episode 1 that came from the Harley Quinn animated series. So very much everything that we interpret as being Batman now mostly has come from the animated series.
No matter how much it's changed, you can look at a lot of things and it all comes back to this. And I think, to say for certain, those first 3 seasons of Batman the Animated Series, not including the 4th New Adventures of Batman, those first 3 series, if we take out Killer Croc, I would say is the definitive interpretation of Batman. I think.
Interpretation, that's the word, yes.
Yes, you can have loads of different interpretations, and I really do like others. But I think when it comes to getting everything kind of right and being, he doesn't kill, and having Harley and Joker and all that kind of stuff, and having all the characters really well written, and not trying to, like, when it comes to being the definitive closest interpretation to what Batman probably should be, like as a baseline, I think it does that perfectly, and I think it's wonderful. And
because there's obviously other things that you think, I'd quite like them to have done this, like going more into maybe like, your old favorite year 1 and year 2 Batman. You could maybe,
which I got a little bit from in Robin's Reckoning.
Yeah, loosely, but you can say, "Oh, I'd have liked to have seen some of that." But it's also like, because it's a kids show, it's just saying, "Well, yeah, but this is just about this Batman now." And anything where you think, "Well, I would have liked this," they tend to be from other time periods. Like if you wanted to say, "Wish we could have got Red Hood in it," different time period. I wish we could have got Dark Knight Returns in it, different time period. But for this period of Batman, where it's just the adventures of Batman, essentially, I can't think of anything that I can say, I wish they could have done. Well, take his cowl off when he's in the Batcave, but I don't think there's anything I can think of where I can say, I wish they'd done this with this character if this person had done this instead. There's very little, if anything, I can think of where I'd say, well, they should have done this with the Joker instead, because no, it's the perfect Joker.
Yeah. Everything is just kind of, if you want to change something, it's usually just because you want a different story or a different interpretation, really. But if you want kind of just the baseline for what Batman is fundamentally, or should be fundamentally, I say, this is the version you should go looking for. And as I've said, I do love year 1 and kind of year 2, that kind of time period for Batman. But my 2 favorite time periods are that time period where he's just starting out. Well, not just starting out, where he's that cusp. I've explained it before.
Yes.
My other favorite is when he's in his prime, not age-wise, but when it comes to time-wise, his prime with the first Robin, because I think that's actually the happiest time for Dick Grayson and Batman, because the next, like, literally, you look like 10 years in the future, then you've got Jason Todd who's been killed, and it's like that one didn't go quite as well as the first one. Whoops.
Bit miserable.
But no, Batman the Animated Series. My voice almost lost me there. I think it is wonderful, brilliant, amazing, fantastic. If you haven't seen it and you are a fan of Batman, go
What the
watch
hell
it.
are you doing with yourself?
Yeah. What about you, Aiden? Final thoughts?
It is very good.
Yes. 10 out of 10. Actually, no.
And it
10,
is
9.5 out of 10 because Killer Croc should piss off.
Well, 9.99 then, because he's a very minor element,
Yeah.
isn't he? How many episodes is he in total? Probably about 3 or something. So
I can only recall 4.
there we go then. So not many. But yes, he is. I've said this before, and when we were talking about who's our favorite Batman, we settled on Keaton. But if you were to include animation as well, I'd always go for old Kevin boy.
Yes. When it comes to favorite Batmans, often you can't instinctively include animations because there's a lot of stigma around animation. People just say, "Oh, it's for kids."
Yeah, and I think sometimes if you say who's the best Batman, when you say that, you tend to mean live action.
Yeah,
don't you? That
I
tends
get
to
you.
be what you mean.
But if we include animations and all that, the problem, poor Michael Keaton does get shunted down a wee bit because it's Kevin Conroy at the top, and then you got quite a list of others like Rena Romano.
And then basically,
loads.
you've got the list of all the different Kevin Conroy ones he's played, haven't you? Because he's done about 17.
Well, he's played Batman the most.
Well, I'm not
technically.
surprised.
Yeah, he won't stop. The guy's like, I don't know how old he is now, but he's proper getting on a bit, but he's still like voicing Batman in games, and it's like, dude, you do not sound the same. He doesn't. He's proper so but yeah, no, Kevin Conroy, best Batman. So Aiden, what am I doing next week?
I don't know, it's your podcast.
Next week we are covering Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes.
Which is still animated series.
Still the animated series, but it's one of those where it's like everything's summed up in one.
It's the Mask of the Phantasm is a Batman animated series film where it's got a bigger budget and it's a bigger kind of all-rounding story, and there's lots of very interesting elements there. It's basically Batman
but
animated
it's still
series.
That same world, isn't it?
Yes, it's that world, that character, just with a bit more time and effort put into one big story. But thank you very much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Same bat time.
Same bat channel. Keep waving. Keep waving.